because a lot of projects launch their token without a product just to raise funds, create speculation, make money out of it.
Were you convinced, or is like, okay, this is another get-rich-quick scheme?
We went without salaries for about 6 months. We had to do it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nalikes Podcast. I'm Talha Asif, and in each episode, we bring you insightful conversations with the founders and builders who are shaping the future of Web3. Our goal here is to educate and inspire while showcasing what other successful founders are doing for their projects and startups. Make sure you watch till the end as you learn practical and actionable steps that you can apply to your Web3 startups today. Today's guest is Ajay Shetty, who is the COO and co-founder of Arcana Network. Thank you so much, Ajay, for coming on. How are you today?
Doing very well, and thank you so much for taking this initiative. Very excited to see some of your videos, and thank you so much for having me.
Amazing, Ajay. So, for those of who don't know, we have worked with Ajay and the Arcana team in the past. They're building something really cool. So I wanted to bring you on, learn more about your experience building Arcana and share with other founders what they're building on. Like I was saying before I started recording, is that founders do have some skills, but there are a lot of skills that they don't have, right? So this effort is to just help founders with the skills or the areas they are lacking. It could be product development, fundraising, marketing, and so on. So we'll be talking more about that. But before we do that, I want to learn who is Ajay before crypto, and what have you done, and what led you to start Arcana.
Great. Yeah, I'll keep it very brief, right? So I come from like an engineering background. Started my career back in 2010. Immediately out of engineering, joined an automotive company. Was mostly into technical sales and product management back then. Very soon, kind of got interested with the management side of things. So after a few years, switched to management consulting with a very boutique management consulting firm. I got to work with like a small team there, but got to work with very experienced people over there. And eventually, basically, took on my MBA. I did my MBA in marketing and strategy, and immediately after that, got back into consulting. This time with a lot more clarity and a lot better perspective of where the industry is going. But got into IT consulting. And a few years back, I've known Mayur, a founder and CEO, for quite some time. And we've been having quite a few discussions over the last few years since the time he started Newfang, which was what the company started before Arcana. So we've been talking to each other on various aspects of the company itself, technology, blockchain, and his previous startup, etc. And over a period of time, he kind of forced me into exploring Arcana. And when it was time to make the decision, it was actually him really coming to my door and saying, "You have to say yes." And yeah, it was it was by chance that I got into blockchain. And at Arcana, I've been there since 2021, since the time we set up. Technically a founding member. I would still give credit to Mayur for being in this space since 2017 and starting the other products that he did. But yeah, since 2021, I've been part of this company, and everything I know about blockchain technology is because of Arcana. And that's how I kind of entered into blockchain itself.
Got it. How was that shift from being a consultant to a founder? Would you suggest anyone to do that? I wouldn't suggest anyone to do that.
No, I had the experience of working with a small team, so technically it felt like a startup even before Arcana. So it wasn't much of a change, but I think the reason I was brought on board was specifically a set of skills that I had outside of technology, on the non-engineering side of things. I was working on things like processes and how to scale, and had expertise across different functions like marketing, finance, HR, and things like that. So those were things that he felt was needed, and that's why I was kind of brought on board.
Amazing. And what was your reaction to Web3? Because you mentioned you weren't in crypto before that, right? So when Mayur came in Web3, and were you convinced, or is like, okay, this is another get-rich-quick scheme, or were you understood?
No, not really. Yeah, my introduction to Web3 was fairly good in the sense it was about technology, and it's not about, quick money, which is why most people are in this space, right? It was about building really nice, decentralized products which enables certain benefits for users, right? So the Web3 concept itself is what I was introduced to. And yeah, I was initially a big critique for Mayur because the first product they launched was a decentralized storage product. And I kept wondering why would people use this because of its obvious limitations. Of course, it's secure, decentralized, all of those things, but it's slow. It can be expensive, all of those things, and there's a lot of convenience with the Web2 storage products. So obviously was very critical at that moment, but eventually when they pivoted into being like a full stack, not a full stack, like a suite of products and services with a goal to simplify user experience. And that kind of piqued my interest more than anything else. And the initial thing that we pitched was we want to be the Firebase of Web3. So have this little tools that developers can use and give a very familiar Web2 experience to its
Yeah.
users. So that was about.
I think that analogy is very good, and I think I learned this from Y Combinator. Is that when you're presenting your idea to VCs or people, just use "I am this" of this, right?
Yeah.
Take a product that is already working and just put it sort of like we are Firebase of Web3. That's a very good thing. Amazing. So let's talk more about Arcana, right? So Mayur was working on this. You had these expertise. He brought you on. You started working together. And then what is Arcana, basically? Simplify it, dumb it down
Right.
for us.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we are right now. So at Arcana, we are building a chain abstraction protocol powered by a modular layer one that enables users to spend on any token on any chain in one click. So this is the definition, and there were a lot of jargons here, so I'll just break it down a little bit, right? So chain abstraction, what is chain abstraction? It's essentially abstracting away a few steps or processes that a user currently is doing while interacting with multiple chains in the blockchain ecosystem. So if a user is is a user of 5 different applications across 5 different chains, today he needs to have different wallets, but definitely have assets and gas tokens on each of those chains. So this is a lot of friction for definitely a new user, but even for an existing user, it's a lot of day-to-day mundane stuff that they keep doing. So the elimination of these steps is what chain abstraction is. So elimination of bridging, swapping, funding gas tokens, and things like that.
Across all chains?
Yeah, across all chains. I mean, across whatever chains is feasible. So that's chain abstraction in very simple terms. The modular layer one, we are powered by a modular layer one. So I'll touch upon the architecture a little bit, but fundamentally what we do is we ask the user to have a wallet but hold assets on one chain, but we give them the ability to spend that on any other chain. To do this, we have in the backend, it's not like these steps are completely eliminated. It's happening in the backend, but happening in like an optimized fashion. So there's an Arcana network, there's a solver network, and so many other things that's happening in the backend. So the Arcana network, essentially what it does is when a user needs to perform these transactions, that is hold assets on one and spend on another, all of the stuff that happens in the background, like verifying the assets, checking if what task, how the intents needs to be processed and things like that. So that's what the Arcana network does, and it's a decentralized network. So the decentralized set of nodes that kind of do it. So we are taking this modular L1 approach with the Cosmos app chain.
Got it.
Then a little bit further is how we basically execute user intents. So maybe we'll dive deeper into that eventually.
Yeah.
But essentially
cool.
what's what it is.
So I think that was a good summary. If I were to summarize, is that people are already using these products, and as soon as more, as we go forward, more and more people would come into this space, and the way we will bring them on is by reducing friction, creating better user experiences, instead of developers and founders who are working on their product building everything from ground up. They can leverage your infrastructure to speed up their development and then achieve their goal. That's a good summary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah. There's more to it. Like developers currently chasing chains and users and liquidity in those chains. It gives developers a very new perspective and a lot of options now with chain abstraction. They can choose a stack that's more beneficial for their value proposition as opposed to just chasing what's hot.
Got it. So there are a couple of things that I ask every founder because these are the things that are going in other founders' mind, right? So let's start with the first one, ideation, right? How do I choose an idea to work on, right? Because there's so many things, even in the Web3 space, to work on, right? I mean, I can go for consumer-facing product, I can go for infra, I can for gaming, so many things, right? But how did you guys decide? Because you mentioned something that you were working on a couple of other products, right? You were working on storage and then you pivoted and stuff like that. How did you end up deciding that this is the idea that we want to work on? How did you figure it out? And how did you have the conviction? Was there any framework you used? And then how did you validate it that this is something that the market wants? Or is it something you're still doing? Talk about that.
It's gone through a fair share of evolution, right? So at back in 2017 when they initially built out decentralized storage, it was basically what's used in every application by every developer. One is storage is like the most basic requirement, right? So there was obviously a big market for it, and that decentralizing that was one of the key propositions they thought of, but eventually, as and when we learned that it's a commodity and it's very hard to penetrate into that market, and when there are big players, incumbents in the space, we kind of felt that what we need is uh, like uh, a, like a suite of products and services where they can pick and choose, and we don't offer like one comprehensive solution and do it. You give that flexibility to users themselves.
So more like AWS for Web3?
Yeah. So Firebase, AWS, those were our definitions in the early days, right? So, I think the initial problem that we saw is how to make it easy for developers to build applications easily. So that was the pain point we saw, right? But eventually, we kind of realized it's not just the developers. Our core, we are B2B2C. So we have to look at what issues the users are facing, and help the developers, solve these problems through our tools. So it was more looking at what the whole blockchain space, is facing in terms of challenges, and try and address one thing at a time. So we kind of picked a few of them, which we thought were like things that everybody could use.
There's a very important thing you mentioned. It's things that we thought. Okay, that's a very tricky word, because you as a founder can't really just keep working on your conviction, right? So
right.
How did you thought, and then how are you validating your idea, right? Because if no one really wants to use your product, it does not make sense to keep working. So talk more about that. Like we thought.
Yeah. Right. So see, when I say we thought, it's essentially what's currently being used across Web3 apps. So one of the frictions we saw was to basically use a Web3 application, you need wallets. So how do we? So the natural steps. Let's just look at the user journey. So you are asked to try out a Web3 app. You first need to download a wallet, manage seed phrases, then you have to add funds to it, add gas tokens. There's so many steps. There was a very steep learning curve, at least 3 years back, right? So we kind of felt that these are steps we can simply eliminate, and within a click enable all of this for a user. So what we did with our first product, Arcana Auth, is enable social logins, things that users are familiar with already in the Web2 space, and do all of this wallet creation and everything else, basically abstract away all of those complexities. So if you've tried our product, you just log in with your Gmail, you log in, you are in the app, you have a wallet, and you can start interacting with the wallet almost in under 10 seconds, which would otherwise take a lot of time. So it was essentially looking at just user journeys, figuring out why there's lower adoption, and picking on those pain points, and then slowly kind of building on it. It was, I wouldn't say that we were the first ones to do it. There were players who were doing it, but we saw some obvious issues with them, so we kind of tried doing it better than that.
Got it. So if I were to summarize for you, the ideation was like these are the problems that, again, people were using the products, right, before even your solution or the solutions existed. You were like, okay, how we can improve it? Because so in your case, you didn't, and other people were doing it, so that was some sort of validation that if you were just to present them the existing users, they will use their product. Cool. So that covers the ideation and framework, and the takeaway for founders is that see what other people are using these applications or using products, see if you can improve them somehow. So that's one way you can pick ideas to work on. Was there some sort of personal reason as well? Because I interview a lot of founders, we work with a lot of founders, and we see that they all have some, and I mean the ones that stick around, that very persistent, that they have some sort of personal reason. In your case as well, or
Yeah.
with your team, was there any personal reason with this?
Yeah, I think just the core proposition of blockchain technology itself is the reason why a lot of passionate people are in this space, right? So the ability to own, have ownership of your data and your assets, control over it, access the decentralized aspects of it, the censorship aspects of things. These are things that we've always seen as problems with some of the big giants in the Web2 space. And naturally, it was common for us to think that the future cannot be like this. And that's that. I mean, essentially, those are the things that uh, uh,
Makes
hit us,
makes
and
sense.
we're passionate about.
Amazing. Let's talk about money. Once you have figured out an idea to work on, you can't do it without money. There are a couple of ways you can do it. Either you can bootstrap it, raise from an angel, go for a VC round, launch a token. What have you done to bring your idea to reality, and what advice can you share with other founders? Because there are a lot of people who have an idea, they have some traction, but they don't know how to bring money in. So again, and some kind of projects can't work without money, like in your case, or some projects might be able to keep on bootstrapping, but if you want to scale, you need money. So talk more about that. What has been your experience, and what advice can you share with the founders?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've our journey in since actually my journey. At least I'll start with my journey. Right? So my journey since 2021, I think we started off with fundraising. We had an idea, we had a proof of concept that was developed. So we went to the market with a clear vision, a mission, and at that time, uh, there were not many players who were saying that we will be the the Firebase of Web3. So we straight away we were lucky to be introduced to a lot of investors by guys like Sandeep and Kenzie, or some prominent figures in the space, right? So uh, those guys kind of guided us on how to approach fundraising itself. I would say that we took a rather conservative approach to fundraising. May not be ideal considering how things went. I'll explain. So back in 2021, we did like a seed round, raised some few million, to 2.5 million to be precise, and the in our heads we were thinking, we need about a year to build this out. We were not like any other infra, like majority of the other infra providers, just aggregating different solutions and just packaging it differently and going to market. We wanted to build out a few things from scratch. Like our auth product is powered by like a DKG, a distributed key generation scheme, which has a lot of cryptography, so it's fairly complex to build something like that. So we gave ourselves enough time to build this out. But what we thought is once year and a half, when we have the product ready, and that's when we'll do subsequent rounds for going to market, and then eventually again for scaling, we'll raise more and things like that. We were looking at it in that sense. But in hindsight, it would have made a lot of sense if we had planned for longer, uh, because infra projects definitely need a lot more time to get that kind of adoption. And obviously, we had like a very, very extended bear market as well. So while we hit our product milestones, while we put out our product, put our products out there, the guys who were integrating us were also having their own share of problems. So it was a lot of struggles along the way. But nevertheless, if you have a very good idea, if you're consistently delivering uh, products, product updates, and you have a product market fit, and you kind of show traction from time to time, yeah, I think
Fundraising
fundraising
won't
is
be an issue.
never an issue. Yes.
Got it. So the takeaway here is that first of all, I think you mentioned network and connection. I think that is
Yeah.
the first thing that you talk about. You should know who you know. I mean that's very underrated. Second is that if you have a product, I mean you have something to showcase, right? Because people try to ask for millions without even having a product. So in your case, you had a product, so that's the first thing. Second thing was that traction, product market fit. So you had, I assume, a couple of users who were using your product.
Yeah.
Got it. And then you okay, so that's how you were able to raise. But the thing that you said, that if you're building infra product, always try to ask for more because you will run out and you will need longer. Man, amazing. Now the second thing I want to talk about is business model and your go-to-market strategy. Or I assume you haven't gone to market yet. So let's talk about your business model, right? If a founder wants to build infra product, how they can do their business model, because most of the founders that I've come across, or majority of them, they don't really think about how they make money, right? Because and eventually you have to make money. You can't again, based on my experience, at least, you can't always keep on raising and doing that. At some point, you have to start generating revenue so you can, sustain your product and then give back to your investors. So, how are you guys able to figure out the business model, and how can other founders figure out, and what was your go-to-market strategy? Because I assume you have a clear ICP, you know who you wanted to sell to initially, which was developers. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely ideal to have like a very robust revenue model, and but it's still far-fetched, to be very honest, especially in the Web3 space. You cannot uh, uh, you can only hope to be profitable. Only a handful of projects I can even think of who are profitable right now. But it's definitely important to have like a clear plan for revenue. So in our case, we had a very straightforward SaaS-based business model. So we were very clear that we will launch these products and services and charge users based on usage. So our auth product, it's charged based on monthly active users. So you integrate, you have users, you just yeah, we're going to charge you based on usage. Similarly, for our gasless, our sended product, we had a similar approach. With our chain abstraction specifically, we have we are yet to launch chain abstraction. Obviously, we'll be launching in a month or two. But the go to market there is we kind of this is such a new area that we don't know how this will pan out in a year's time. So the approach we are taking is we're going to put a consumer product out there. And unlike a few others who are going both B2B and B2C, we're going to put a consumer wallet out there so users can actually just try it out and get a first-hand feel of what chain abstraction looks like. And post that, we're going to have SDKs released for wallets and DApps, so to enable this whole chain abstraction thing. And the way we're going to charge is every time we kind of automate those steps that I referred to, that we're abstracting away those bridging and swapping mechanisms. We're going to charge like a protocol fee for each transaction that they do. Now, this is nothing new for a user because if not for chain abstraction, they will be doing this manual process themselves and incurring those costs. So what we will do is kind of charge them that fee, maybe even discount it, and charge that as a protocol fee. So that's it's fairly straightforward for us
Got
to
it.
in
Got
terms
it.
of
So
pricing.
got it. So for the business model, you mentioned that again, make it actionable for founders. If you're working on any product, you need to have a model with which you can generate revenue. If you're doing infra, one thing that you guys are doing, and I think majority of them are doing it, is SaaS based on number of usage or API calls. But I think it only works when you have a big amount of users, right? If you don't have a
Yeah,
lot of users, that won't be sustainable. Amazing.
absolutely. I
And for
mean, sorry, just to elaborate there. So uh, the potential is high. Obviously, you have to hit. I mean, if you look at other players, they're operating with like 10, 20 million users, and if you look at Web two, it's even more, right? So some Web two projects. So there's definitely no shortage of number of users, but yes, you will really be profitable when you really scale and have that.
So when it comes to the go-to-market strategy, you mentioned that again, the space is very volatile. You really can't
Haha.
be sure on what strategy you use, but there's one strategy that you're using is that instead of other founders or projects building products using your tech, and then if one of them becomes successful, you guys succeed, you decided, we'll just launch our own product using our own tech.
Yeah.
Why are you taking this approach, and how can other founders use this approach if they're working in infra?
Yeah. So, I mean, our approach may not be the ideal approach for everybody, but I'll explain why it made sense for us, right? So, with our other products, there was a lot of friction for us, for our products to reach the end user. Friction naturally is the project integrating with us, the project giving a good user experience for the end user. I mean, they can integrate with us, but what if the app itself is not good enough? It's not going to work out. And then also they having the distribution themselves. So there's a lot of milestones we need to hit for our products to do well. And this naturally impacts our brand, our distribution overall. And now that we also have a live token, all of these things matter, that people directly look at like a high quality end product, and our brand resonates with that product. And then eventually, they also see that with other DApps, it just becomes easy to recall. So for us, it made sense because I think where we suffered a little bit over the last 2 years is because of obviously cash crunch and markets being down and things like that. So we didn't have exorbitant marketing budgets, so we really didn't go overboard with any of those spends. And as a result, the awareness is there, but we could do a lot better. So for that reason, we just took a slightly different approach this time, and starting off with a B2C product and then moving to B2B. So, and also I think the feedback loop will be much faster with the B2C product. So, because users will straight away try it out, compare it with the other solutions out there, and give us feedback. So it's very easy
Got
to
it.
learn and quickly adapt.
Amazing. One thing you mentioned is you launched a token as well. Now, that is something that I advise against projects not to do it, because once you launch a token, you advise the sentiment of your community to the charts rather than focusing on that. So, how has that experience been for you? I mean, it's good to raise some
Yeah.
funds, but how has been for overall project, and how has your
Yeah.
community reacted to it?
Yeah, so there are many aspects to this. I get what you're saying, and that's primarily because a lot of projects launch their token without a product just to raise funds, create speculation, make money out of it, right? But the real token utility is what you need to look at. Why launch a token? So in our case, we had to launch a token because we are a decentralized network. We have different nodes, and the only way these nodes can contribute is by staking. And if there are bad actors, there has to be penalty for them. All of those things. So we need a native token for our network to function. So that was the primary reason. In fact, if it was purely about just launching token and raising money, we could have done this 2 years back. Kind of delayed the whole thing, but it was high time last year we do this because we wanted to enable real token utility. Because it's also important for all the new product releases that we will do. We need to have a live token and to enable the network and get retail audience also to be part of that network and run nodes for us. So it was more a necessity from an infra point of view, as opposed to a mode of raising funds for us. But yes, the moment you have a token out there, you have a product and you have token, and a token is a product in itself. So you're now dealing with two different businesses.
Amazing. Next thing I want to talk about is competition mode, because you mentioned, again, there are a lot of other players in infra, right? So my first question is, again, in Web2, competition is different, but in Web3, we need competition just to, people can get an understanding of what we are building. So how are you guys reacting to infrastructure? Competition. What is your moat? What is your moat? Like, what differentiates you? And my question is, why not AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google ICP just do these things that you're doing? They have more money, they have more manpower, they can go to market faster. And I think this is a question I ask everyone, right? So talk more about these three things. Like, why not AWS? Why you guys?
Sure. So first on the competition part. So yes, every time we do the ideation for a product, we look at what currently exists, what problems are they facing, and how we can build something better. So with there are 4 different products, so I'll not talk about all of them, but I'll just talk about the most recent one. When we go to market with the chain abstraction protocol, the idea is that there are a few key differentiators that we're going to market with. Like, it's a little specific, so I don't know if everybody will get it, but our chain abstraction protocol, unlike others who work with smart contract wallets, we will be working with EOAs. So users can bring their existing wallets and existing assets in their wallets and just start enabling like a chain abstraction feature to their existing wallet. So it's a slight differentiation from a competition. We believe this will obviously lead to better user experience because this immediately taps into existing Web3 users, right? And what was the second question? Competition.
Moat. What is your moat?
Mod. Yeah, I would say for us, our vision mission is all around making Web3 effortless. So the user experience aspect itself is super key for us. One thing we have realized is one of the mistakes we did, and one thing we quickly corrected is initially we were thinking of doing too many things. Like we were thinking of having 10 different features, right? And the more we naturally we fail. Okay, this product one does this. Let's add three more features. Let's do something better than that. It's not really about that in Web3 right now because of all the UX issues. It's about having that one or two features that is there in an existing product and doing it 10x better, and that really gives you like a very easy boost. And what it helps you is if this is a very critical feature in that product, it will immediately resonate with this very specific set of audience, and they will convert into loyal users almost instantly because they know this is one feature. You don't use all 10 features or 20 features in a product, right? You use few things, and if you do that really well, so you can easily get that initial boost for your product. So I think that's what we're doing with our chain abstraction as well, focusing on a few things, going to market with few chains, few products, few apps, and then then expanding it further.
And lastly, why you guys?
Yeah.
Why not big players like AWS,
Yeah.
Google, Microsoft?
Yeah. Why would was the question? Why wouldn't they do what we are doing, or
No,
why
I
would?
mean, let's say you are doing it, they decide to do it, okay, and
Of
they have
course,
more manpower, more money, more reach. They can do
of
it better
course.
than you.
If
So, how do you? What's your
eventually
mindset with
they will.
dealing with these?
So
Yeah.
eventually they will. And moreover, we are not necessarily their competitors. So the way it works is we are decentralized, correct? But these individual nodes use other services themselves. So there are individual nodes. There could be one guy could be using AWS, one guy could be using GCP, Azure. So then it's not really like killing the business. It's just changing the architecture and changing the implementation. Why wouldn't they do it today? It's just that they lose control over. As of today, they have access to all data. They have control over all of it. And the moment it gets decentralized, it's a different ballgame altogether. You're giving control to the users. I don't think that's not something that will happen in the future. But as and when there's adoption, as and when it takes off, uh, all of these guys will just fall in line and use this path. Yeah, it's not that, and when they come in, they'll come in hot for sure. Yes.
Yeah, and that will be prime time for everyone. Amazing. You on your journey as one of the founding members with Arcana. I mean, being a founder is a roller coaster ride, right? You have high highs and low lows. What main problems you have seen in your journey, and what framework have you used to solve them? And then again, the takeaway for other founders, because this is something that I ask every founder: how do you deal with problems? Because you will face problems if you're a founder, right? Because if you don't want to face problem, you can go work at a startup. It's much more relaxed, it's much more stable. But as a founder, it's up and down. One day you're like, it's the best company in the world, best product in the world. Second, it's what I'm doing with my life. So talk more about what has been some problems in your journey, and then how did you overcome it, and how can other founders watching use that framework?
See, yeah, I mean, if you're in a startup, problems have to be there. Otherwise, uh, you're an established company. You're not a startup anymore if you don't have any problems. So naturally, we went through our own journey. So for us, I think it was nothing uh, different than what any other founder would face. Our initial set of problems were how do we get like the best team together. So the stuff we do is very complex. There are very few people out there with this kind of skill set. So it's a lot of cryptographers, mathematicians, researchers that we had to bring on board. Finding these people was super hard. Then how do we get a set of very loyal, passionate guys on board who will stick with us and not just and are not just looking for like a quick jump. So it was the team issue was the first hurdle we had to jump through, and then once we started building out, I think it was a lot of external factors as well. So slow adoption, a lot of our customers, partners shutting down. These are all not ideal situations. So we had really good traction early on. We had about 50 plus customers in the first 3 months, and today also we're sitting with 100 plus integrations. So there was a lot of interest, but at the same time we saw a lot of those projects fizzle out because of external conditions, market conditions, adoption, and things like that. So this was a fair share of problems we faced. We had our own fair share of cash crunch situation, and that's when you're really tested, right? So founders who really don't give up will go to any extent to survive, and we did our share of work as well. So I think sometime last year, we went without salaries for about 6 months, not last year, slightly earlier. But yeah, we had to do it. We had to do it. So these are things that we'll have to take
So
on.
what was the conviction? What kept you going?
So that's a good one. We knew that we had a good product. We knew that we were ahead of our peers, and we just had to hustle through like a bad phase. We stuck to our core values in terms. We didn't make any compromise with the way we built the product, the way we took it to market. No shortcuts whatsoever. So this is obviously debatable, right? You know, a lot of people focus too much on product. Well, some of them do exceptional marketing, and they are one of the hottest product projects out there. But nevertheless, we stuck to our core values. We knew that we had a great product. We obviously, all of our backers also agreed that we have good products. So it was just a matter of time when things bounce back, and we had to just keep building. And I think we just stuck to our guts, and we knew that it was not that we didn't have a product market fit. It's not like we had a bad product or yeah. So essentially, that we just liked what we built, and we had good feedback, so we just kept us going.
Got it. So I mean, the takeaway is that you believed in your product. That was the first thing, right? You had some
Yeah.
traction. So that was the
Yeah.
second thing. You only knew that this was a phase. And again, it's very subjective as well. Some founders might not even have traction. They might not even have backers. So in your case, that was a good thing. Amazing. That was really good. I want to touch on team building. I mean, you mentioned that what you guys are trying to do is something challenging technically. So you need skilled and smart people. Finding smart people is not easy. Retaining them is not even easier because again, in this space, people like to hop from one job to another job. So talk more about that. How were you able to build a team? How were you able to gather them around your vision and mission, which is like make them loyal? And how can other founders do that?
So I think this starts very early on in the hiring stage itself, right? So you have to be extremely transparent and communicative with whoever you're looking to hire, and share your visions and make sure they're aligned with it, right? So that's what we did with every hire we had. We tried to understand why they want to be part of this company and what matter most to them. It's not about what we need, but also what they need. So these discussions were very transparent very early on. At the same time, and once you were onboarded, it was purely about a very good culture in the team. So we were very clear. I mean, we had a set of core values. We operated very much like a Web2 company. We were very clear. We had an onboarding process. We were telling that these are core values of the company. This is what we stand for. This is what we expect out of you. The other aspects like ownership and quality and all of those things, and a good work-life balance. These are things that we were very transparent about.
How do you do that in Web3?
A work-life balance. just don't bother your dev team on weekends, and they'll be happy.
Okay.
So trouble them throughout the week, but don't message them over the weekend. Founders have to do that.
Got it. And
Yeah.
lastly, loyalty. I mean, even if you pay them
Yeah.
well, even if you create a good culture, but still, how do you make them believe in your why? Are you familiar with the concept of start with why?
Yeah, of course. That's
Right?
that's one of our core values. Always ask why
Uh,
and not what. right? If you're
Yeah,
given
yeah.
a task, please ask why. Start with the first principles. Ask why. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And we were quite very fortunate. In 3 years, I think only two people quit our team, and that too for higher education. And yeah, most of the most of the team members were very loyal to us. I'll have to ask them why, but I basically think it's because we just have good rapport. They see the rigor, the passion in the founding team itself, and they just believe in us. So yeah, I mean, we keep them going, and all of the troubles that we are facing, we keep them away from it. That's our job. If there's a cash crunch situation, none of the team got affected. It's the founding team that gets affected. So those are the things that you need to take on, and yeah, I think
Yeah, that's a very
that's
good
what's
advice. I mean, that's a very good advice for every founders watching, and even if a first time founder, you don't need to let the morale of your army down. If you lose a client, if you have issues, just don't let them bother, because you as a founder, you can need to have that emotional intelligence, or just to take that in and not let it pass your team. And I think that's not even companies, even in household as well. You as a leader, just keep things to yourself. That's a very good thing. And yeah, and this has helped, right? Because some people are very risk averse, right? As soon as you tell them this situation, they're like, okay, let's start worrying about their safety, or their survival. So you as a founder have to bear that. Amazing, Ajay. I mean, what's next for Arcana? And let's talk more about if someone wants to use your product, how they can use it. Or I mean, I understand developers can do that, but break it down. I'll add links in the description. Let's talk about what is next for Arcana, and how can people use your product.
Yeah. So the next big thing for us is chain abstraction. The biggest problem right now in the market is, liquidity fragmentation, and as a result, user fragmentation. So we are trying to solve that. So a developer today is trying to build substandard products primarily because they are chasing narratives, they're chasing users, chasing liquidity, because that's what's driving the market. It's not high quality product, it's great marketing and great narratives and things like that. It's unfortunate, but we need to get out of that. So the chain abstraction protocol will essentially solve for these two problems, and it's a three-pronged approach for us, right? The reason we really believe in this is, number one, first thing it will improve is the user experience. Since user experience is improved, we find users across apps, adoption increases, and as a result, there's more confidence for devs. And naturally, now the second aspect of it is developer experience. So developers now need not have to worry about what chains they're building on and what chains have more users and things like that. There are many chains with certain benefits. So whatever suits your product, you use them. Use them first, and our products will take care of the users coming from different ecosystems, the liquidity coming from different ecosystems. That's what our protocol will take care of.
Don't you think? Sorry to cut you here. Don't you think that it goes against the culture? Because in Web3, some people are specific chain maxis. Like, I want to build on ETH. I want to build on Solana. If you remove that, I mean, how will you deal with that? Because currently, I'll tell you, I know a lot of people. They are building a product because they like that chain. They like the community of that chain, and they want to just be all about that. So how will you tackle that?
So it depends on what you're building. So it's okay to be a chain maxi. If you like a chain, go ahead and do it, but make sure that's the best chain for what you're building. Don't build a substandard product purely because you're loyal to this chain. If another chain helps you do better, just go ahead and use it, because it's not going to chain abstraction is not going to restrict your app to specific ecosystems. It will just make cross-chain, multi-chain experience much more seamless. So for that reason, I actually don't think that's the uh, that's going to be a blocker. To be honest, of course, if you want to build, you can build on specific chains, but that's the mindset we want to actually change. So developers should stop chasing narratives, chains, and focus more on devs, the dev part of things, and build high quality products. That's what matters.
Very nice. So you were saying what's next for Arcana? So chain abstraction
Yeah.
is next for you guys. So how can people
So
use?
the first one is a B2C product. So it's going to be the most easily accessible product. So you just need, so it's going to be a browser extension. So just like if you're using MetaMask, Rabi, whatever wallet, try out Arcana very soon, and you'll see that you'll get like a unified balance. You can hold assets on different chain, but you'll get a unified balance, and you can use any DApp seamlessly. So we just want you to straight away check it out and give your feedback. Post that, obviously, we're going to work closely on how to make developer experience better by giving these SDKs. We are going to run, obviously, campaigns in the coming months. And we have our go-to-market partners as well. We're going to partner with few chains, few apps, and try and tap into that community first, get some feedback, and then expand it further.
Very nice. How long do you plan to stick with Arcana? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
As long as it
Until
exists,
it
right?
works?
And as long as it exists,
Uh,
and as long as I can hand over my responsibilities to someone else who can do it better.
Yeah, because I think one thing I realized is play long-term games with long-term people. Naval Ravikant, who is like one of my online mentors, they said play long-term games with long-term people. And if you talk with founders in the space, they don't really have a long-term vision. They're like, quick cash grabs, chasing narratives, like you said, and there are very few who are solving a problem, and they won't stick around for very long. So that's why I was asking you this question. Amazing, cool. Ajay, any last thoughts for founders who are building in this space? Any final words before we wrap up?
For founders, okay.
Because that's whom we are focused on, right? Because again, I believe for this space to go forward, we need good products. Good products will come good founders or good developers, actually. That's how the space will go forward. So that's why I'm focused on founders a lot.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think the most generic thing I can tell to founders is stop chasing narratives, find a genuine problem, try to solve it in the simplest way possible. The moment you start chasing narratives, you're trying to solve a very basic problem with things like AI and whatnot, when it's not that complicated. So stop chasing narratives. Try and on the this is actually this earlier. So instead of doing 10 features or 10 extra features on a product, try and do one feature 10x better than everyone else. So you're solving one problem better than anyone else. And I mean, stick around, because I think Web3 is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. If developers stop building, then then what else? Where will this industry go? So stick around.
Exactly. So if you're a developer, founder, you have to keep on building, and that's how all will go forward. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ajay, for coming on. I learned a lot, and I hope you found this podcast inspiring and interesting, as I did. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.